Welcome to Attic Raiders Retro Reviews, where today we're going to be donning our protective eyewear and exploring uncharted planets as we take a look at Expedition Alpha. Expedition Alpha was released by Parker Brothers in 1980 and is a 2 to 4 player game for ages 8 and up. In it you're going to play either the green Mars-Maxis expeditionary team or the red Terra-Tellis team, both of which have landed on the planet Alpha and are setting out to explore. The problem is, Alpha suffers from really bad radiation. The sunlight of its galaxy is so bright you're going to have to wear astro-visors in order to stop from going blind. And that's going to cause problems because that's going to mean that you're not going to be able to see the safe paths through the sand of the planet as you set out to explore it. Sci-fi was in a golden age in the 1980s, and this taps into that perfectly. You can see the artwork on the front of the box here features this great big expedition base rendered by hand in watercolours and inks. It looks like it might be right off the front cover of an Asimov novel. You can also see the game components are featured quite prominently here, which was really good because this has a really unique gimmick which is worth showing off. And as you can tell from the text on the front of the box and on the back of the box here, you can see that this is a German release. In fact, Parker Brothers only ever released this in Germany. There is no English language release of this game available. But thanks to the wonders of Google Translate, we do know how to play it. Now, I love sci-fi games and games which have unique gimmicks, so this should be an automatic win. But is it? How does this game actually stack up? Well, let's take a closer look and find out. The game comes with 72 path tiles, 16 with red footprints on them, 16 with green footprints on them, and 40 with black footprints on them. Now the green and the red footprint tiles have both got black footprint paths printed on the back of them, but the black footprint tiles, they are completely blank on the back. We've got 4 sets of astro-visors, and these are just like the old anaglyph 3D glasses you used to get for watching movies or VHS, particularly in 3 dimensions. But instead of the anaglyph where they had 2 different colours of lenses, these are just one colour. You can see both of these lenses are green, so we've got 2 pairs of green lenses, and we've got 2 pairs here which have both got red lenses in them, and these are just cardboard. They're kind of flimsy, but they hold up over time, and these are supposed to shade your eyes from the sun in the story, the narrative of the game, but these bits don't actually really do anything in the game. We've got our 4 astronaut playing pieces here, and these are all marked on the back with 2 in green and 2 in red, and with 2 different symbols. And the symbols are going to be important for when you've got the glasses on and you can't tell the colour difference. Slightly paradoxically, if you're wearing the red astro-visors, then you're actually going to want one of the green astronauts as your playing piece, because as soon as you've got the red visor on, you're not going to be able to actually see the symbol on the red ones in order to be able to tell which one is yours. You can see that these playing pieces are actually much better quality than a lot of playing pieces from this era, and that's because these were not actually made specifically for this game. These were a pre-existing toy. These are actually minifigures from the Tente construction brick set, which was very similar to Lego, but it came out in Spain and it started in 1972. Tente sets also featured little holes in the bricks, which is why the figures have got these little pegs on the bottom of their feet here so that they can clip into whatever you were constructing. Now in this game, however, it means that there aren't any holes for these pegs, so it actually means that these are a lot less stable than they should be. If those pegs were missing, then they would be a lot more stable on the flat surfaces of this game. And finally, we've got our game board, which has got a half fold and features some really nice painted artwork of the planetary surface, as well as craters and spaceships. we've got our 4 stations in the corners of the board and this neutral station in the centre. The object of the game then is to be the first person to get your astronaut from your home station in the corner of the board safely across the terrain of the planet to this neutral central station here, and then across to the station at the opposite corner of the board. But the solar radiation on this planet is really intense, so you're going to have to wear your solar lenses, and that is going to cause a whole lot of problems. In order to do that, every player is going to take their playing piece and place it onto their colour of space station in the corner of the board. They're then going to take a matching pair of glasses, 10 black neutral path tiles, and 8 path tiles of their colour, so in this case red ones. And once you've got that, you're going to take your glasses and you're going to put them on before you start setting up the board, which means everything is going to be a very hazy red or green colour. But for this initial demonstration, I'm going to get rid of those. What you've got to do without your opponents twigging to the setup that you're going for is create a path of your colour of footsteps going from your station to the neutral station in the middle. And you can set it up however you want, and it's best to have it not being a very obvious way of getting there, but you're going to set it up so that there is at least one path getting to the station. Other spaces you can fill with the other cards that you've got, and then you're going to fill the other spaces with the black cards. But of course you don't want to actually put them down in the order that I'm putting them down here, because that would be really obvious to your opponents where the safe path would be if you laid them out that way. You're going to want to put down alternating red and black tiles so that your opponents can't actually see what you're doing as you're doing it. Because to you, it's quite obvious where the safe path is as you're laying it out when you're wearing your glasses, because it's going to be this white path here and everything else is going to be black around it. But for your opponent wearing the green glasses, all they're going to see is you putting down lots of black tiles. They're not going to be able to see where the safe path is. And the opposite is also going to be true, whereas you can only see black lines on your opponent's section of the path, while they're wearing their green glasses, they're going to be able to see where their path is to the central station. Though as you can see, it's definitely much harder to see your own path as the green player than it is for the red player. If you're playing with 4 players, then each player is going to take one astronaut and set up their own quadrant of the board. If you're only playing a 2-player game though, each player is going to take 2 astronauts and set up half of the board. Despite what the game box says, this game can only be played with 2 or 4 players. You can't actually play this with 3 players. It just doesn't work. Players can move forward or back, left or right, but they can't move diagonally. It must be along one of the footstep paths. Players take it in turn, moving their playing piece 1 square at a time in order to reach the central neutral base over here. Now, you don't have to move your piece along your coloured path. If you want to, you can move it along the black path instead. It doesn't have to be your colour of path. You can go any way. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, your opposition is going to be watching you the whole time and trying to figure out where the safe path is. And if you just move straight along the safe path, then they're going to memorize where that is. Whereas if you move along a path that features black ones, which are not safe, then if they memorize that, then that's going to be unsafe for them, and you're going to be able to catch them out with that. Now remember, you can see where the safe path is, but your opponent can't, because to your opponent, everything just looks black. Every time that you take one step along a path, then your opponent has the ability to object and call you out for not being on your correct coloured path. If they don't object, then nothing happens and it simply goes on to being their turn. If they do object though, then you've got to take the card that you're standing on and turn it over. If it shows black footprints on the back, that means you were on the correct coloured path, and you get to have another go that your opponent can't question. So you can move one more space and they're not allowed to object this time and try to call you out. If, however, as you were moving along, you went onto a black square and your opponent called you out, then you would have to turn that over, showing that there are no footprints on the back there, and you would have to go back to the start, which, as you get closer to your objective, is rather annoying. So at this point, you're just trying to get away with going a path that's different from the actual set path without your opponent calling you out or objecting while you're on the black path. So there's quite a lot of bluffing at this stage. Once you get to the central neutral station, then the game takes a complete turn, because now you've got to get across your enemy's territory to their station in the corner. And remember, to you wearing the red glasses, these paths all just look black. But your opponent can tell exactly which way is safe and when you're standing on the wrong space. So you've got to try to remember what your opponent did to get across safely so that you can follow it in reverse to get to their space. But remember, they might have been bluffing and lying about the safe way. And every time that you step onto a black square, your opponent can call it and send you back to the center, showing you that that is the wrong way to go, but you're going to have to go back again. So it's only by taking one step at a time along the correct path that you're going to eventually get over here. But each time you make a mistake, you're going to have to go back again when they show you that that is not the way that you should be going. Eventually though, somebody is going to make their way safely through the path to their opponent's corner, and they're going to win the game. This game is quick to set up, the rules are simple so they're easy to teach and there's not much to remember. The components look nice, particularly with those Lego adjacent plastic playing pieces. It's got a great theme with sci-fi, space explorers, dangerous planets. It's got tactical elements in it, where you're going to have to actually think, try to outwit and outmaneuver your opponent and use bluffing. And it's got elements of tile laying and mazes, which are always favourites of mine. And above all, it's got a really cool, very unique gimmick using those coloured lenses. A gimmick which I haven't really seen on any other board games, vintage or otherwise. So ordinarily, this would be a definite win for me, and it would go straight to being one of my favourite games. However, it does have problems, and those problems come from the unique gimmick, and they might explain why we haven't seen this kind of thing anywhere else. Because these glasses do cause problems, and unfortunately, some of them are rather big. You see, as I mentioned before, the green player who has to wear the green glasses has got a much harder job trying to see their path as being the correct one compared to the black path, in comparison with the red player who has to wear the red glasses, who can see their path really easily compared with the black one. But it actually gets even worse than that. For the green player wearing the glasses, when they get into their enemy's quadrants, they, quite rightly, cannot see the difference between the enemy's red path and the black path. There's not really any way of telling a difference between those two, and that's just how it should be. But when the player wearing the red glasses gets to their enemy quadrant, it is actually possible to tell the difference between the black path and the green path just by looking at it through your lenses. Now, it's not super easy to see, but when you're wearing the red glasses, there is a difference between the black and the green paths. You can see on these black ones here, the straight line between the heel and the rest of the foot is very slightly thicker than on these green paths here
between the heel and the rest of the foot, and you can actually tell the difference between them just by looking at them if you know what to look for, which means that when you're wearing the red glasses you can tell whether your opponent's on the correct path or not to be able to send them back to the beginning, and it also means that when you have to cross you can see where the safe path is in order to cross. Knowing what to look for, you can make out the path that is safe while your opponent can't, and that just completely kills the game.
And that is a pity, because this game has got a lot of potential. It's got some fantastic ideas behind it, and the gimmick, as I said, is really unique, and it's a great concept. It's just a shame that the concept doesn't actually work in practice. In execution, the components just don't hold up to a standard that it's actually going to work as a game. And so, as a game, it fails, and it's one that's going to have to be consigned back into the depths of space. Because once you work out that you can actually tell the paths where they are, nobody's going to want to play this game ever again. So unfortunately, it's not a recommendation on this. Well, I hope you've enjoyed what you've actually seen here today. If you have, please remember to like, comment and subscribe, and we'll be back next time with more vintage board games on Attic Raiders Retro Reviews.